Hey everyone, it's Jason, and welcome back to Arkham Horror, the card game. This is the core set, part 2, where we are going to go over the campaign and encounter cards. So if you didn't check out part 1 for whatever reason, go back, check it out. We went over all of the investigators and the investigator cards from the core set. And as a reminder, this is the original core set, not the revised. The revised does have a couple of additional cards and some alternate artwork in it. I should say extra copies of cards, not additional. There's nothing brand new. There's nothing. There's no brand new content that's not available anywhere else. And the campaign stuff, I think, there's just a few alternate artwork cards, but there's no extra copies because there wasn't any need to include any extra sets. Ooh. And like one of the old downside reasons for the original core set, which is the one I have here, is that if you bought that to get a full set of the investigator cards, you kind of sometimes want to buy a second. They recommended buying a second box, but then you end up with an entire full set of campaign cards that you all generally didn't need, because there was no reason to have two sets of any of the campaign cards, because you really wouldn't shuffle multiples in there. The only slight reason why you ever might want to have multiple of the core sets, there are a few of the encounters that carry over from this base core game into the other expansions. Like some that are very common, like rats and some, and I think, I forgot what the other one's called, like ghouls, or some of these are more common ones. They go into a lot of the, like, they mix in almost every other campaign. But even there, let's just say, is if you were trying to buy multiple copies, that means you'd have to buy a set for every single campaign. There's like 7 campaigns. It's not worth buying 7 sets of this just for those couple of cards. It's better just to take them out, move them from one game to the next, have a better way of doing that. So we're going to go ahead and hop into this. We're breaking this up into just each a core set's big enough we have to break it up into 2 videos, but we'll be doing all the further expansions like this as well, where there'll be a investigators pack and then there will be a campaign pack, because that is how they're starting to release them now. They've re-released every set that way, so we will show them, and then we'll also do the quick speed video where I show off each little individual mythos pack. Again, the core set doesn't have a mythos pack, so we don't have to worry about that. So let's go ahead and hop into the first card of the game. Let me drop my camera down here. So every set, just as a reminder, for if we don't remember, you didn't watch the how to play video, just remember how this all goes. So every story encounter will have one of these base cards. I forgot exactly what they're called, but it's basically going to set up your game. So you either play easy standard, or you can flip it to the other side and play in expert hard mode. And this just sets up what the difficulty is going to be if you draw these specific tokens. Every game is going to have a little bit, every story is going to have a little bit different set and different symbols, different abilities. And then it's also going to show your initial set symbol up there. So we have for the gathering. So we're playing this on easy. If you draw the skull, you get minus X. X is the number of ghoul enemies at your location. You get the little hood, you get -1. If you fail, take 1 horror. And then if you get the window, -2. If there's a ghoul enemy at your location, take 1 damage. So this is kind of going to be based on if you have ghouls in play, you're going to suffer a little bit more. If you draw any of the other, so the only symbols you should end up actually having in the encounter, so when you're picking, it's also going to say if you're picking a different expertise. So if you're playing easy, you're going to include these different chaos tokens. You're playing standard, you'll include a little bit more of them. And if you flip over the harder expert, you'll include even more of each one. So you'll still have the other 2, the elder sign and of course the tentacles, but the tentacle is auto fail and the elder sign is your special ability. That's why they don't usually appear on here as much. Alright, then if we play the hard expert mode, instead for skull we have -2. If you fail after a skill test, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a ghoul enemy, draw it and shuffle it into your encounter deck. Draw it, and then shuffle your encounter deck. If you get the hood, reveal another token. If you fail, take 2 horror. If you get the wheel, -4, there's a ghoul enemy location, and take 1 damage in horror. So like it's not necessarily just easy standard is this does this, and then hard mode is, well, we just upped the numbers or added extra abilities. That actually do work a little bit differently. So it does give you a different experience to play them on those. Alright, then we're going to hop into our agenda cards. So these are the bad things that are going to happen. I'm not going to read through all the text on these. I'll hold them up long enough if you want to read through them. We have how much doom we need to get for this to flip, but we have what's going on. Yeah, you can hold these, you can read these if you want. The back side's some of the story information. If you complete this, you get some more stuff in there. So it says, Julia must decide. Choose one. Either each investigator discards 1 card at random from his or her hand, or the lead investigator takes 2 horror. So this is what happens when this advances. Just to note this, a spoiler for the entire campaign. So if you don't want to know what's going to happen in this story, don't watch the campaign video. It's going to show up. Yes, the little extra encounter cards might not reveal too much, but the main story campaign ones will, and unfortunately we're just going to go through them kind of as they come up. So yeah, that's what we're going to have. So we have part 2 of the agenda. We have Rise of the Ghouls, which has a 7. Backside, shuffle the encounter deck, discard pile into the encounter deck, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a ghoul enemy is discarded. The lead investigator draws that ghoul. And then we have the agenda 3, they're getting out. So this says force. At the end of the enemy phase, each unengaged ghoul enemy moves 1 location towards the parlor. Force. At the end of each end of the round, puts 1 doom on the agenda for each ghoul enemy in the hallway or the parlor. So, this is gonna, so if you haven't been defeating the ghouls, you've been letting them amass too much, they're gonna start, causing you a lot of problems. And it says the ghouls break free. So, if they win this, the investigators are at Act 1 or 2, they're trapped inside the house, and the ghouls tear them apart. And then you go to R3, which is in the rule book, in the campaign guide, it'll tell you what to do there. If the investigators are Act 3, they barely escape for their lives, allowing the ghouls to run rampant. Each investigator who is not resigned is then defeated and suffers 1 physical trauma. So it's kind of neat that they're sort of like, depending on what you do, even if you technically lose the game, you can still keep playing. Lots of it doesn't always mean like, oh, you're done. Alright, then we have our acts, which are the stuff that kind of help us. So we can kind of advance our act by doing 2 clues per person, per investigator. So to be a 2-player game, you need 4. If you're playing a 4-player, you need 8. And then we flip this over. The door and the floor. So this is put aside the side, hallway, cellar, attic, and parlor. Discard each enemy in the study. Push each investigator in the hallway. Remove the study from the game. We have the barrier. Objective: when the round ends, investigators in the hallway may, as a group, spend requisite a number of clues to advance. So that's what you have to do to keep going. And if we flip that one over, we beat that. We have breaking the barrier. The barrier is blocking the path in the parlor has been vanished. Reveal the parlor. Put the set aside Lika Chandler into play in the parlor. Set aside the ghoul priest. Spawn the set aside ghoul priest in the hallway. And then if we get to Act 3, objective, if the ghoul priest is defeated, advance. So we just have to defeat the ghoul priest. And then if we go to defending the home, the lead investigator must decide. Choose one. It was never much of a home, burn it down, which takes us to R1, so Resolution 1. Or, this is hell pit is my home, no way to burn it down, Resolution 2. And then if we went into the campaign, and I'm not going to do this for everyone, but yeah, if you jump into the part where it does say at the end, so at the beginning here, it says these are the different encounters, gathering, rats, ghouls, some other ones. Other cards you set aside, which remind you how to set all that stuff up. But that's going to have in your campaign log. You're going to do various different stuff depending on things. So if no resolution is reached or each investigator is resigned or defeated, this is stuff you're going to do. So if you get Resolution 1, you're going to log that in your campaign. You earn the Lika Chandler deck. You're going to get some stuff there. They have Resolution 2, get various stuff there. Or Resolution 3 is one if you lost. So it's kind of neat. You get to keep doing that, and then you get to go through and upgrade and do all that other stuff. It's probably the last time I'm going to really read through each one of those effects, just on them. There's not too many, but we'll probably just keep moving. Let's go ahead and look at our other cards. So we're going to start with our study. So all the location cards will start, of course, with the blank side up. So this is 2 shroud, 2 clues per player. So again, there's 2 players, you have 2 clues, you have 4 players, you have 8 clues on here. And then if we flip that over to reveal it, this is going to show the other side. Sorry, this is the blank side, and then we flip it over, it's going to show our shroud. So then we have the hallway, which has a little text on it. It's locked up at the top. And these are show our connecting locations, of course. And if we flip that over, it shows our shroud value in there. We have the attic. Smell of rotten meat assaults your nostrils as you approach the attic stairs. Oh. And then we flip over to the attic force. After empty attic, take 1 horror. The bloody carcass of a malformed beast swings meat hook changes and blood drains slowly from the carcass, dripping into a small barrel. Ew. And then we have the cellar. And I like how all the doors are kind of the same, so you don't really know what's what. And that's kind of the whole mystery of the game. Skittling down the cellar slick, and they glisten with a thin layer of ice. And if we flip the cellar over, force after enter the cellar, take 1 damage. The cellar seems to have been replaced with an underground network of icy tunnels and caverns. The cold chills you to the core. And then finally we have the parlor. The entrance to the parlor is blocked by a dark, glowing, unfathomable barrier. You cannot move to the parlor. You're unsure what would happen if you tried to cross the threshold of the strange barrier, but based on its extreme heat, you sure as hell don't want to try it. And then we flip that over. We have the option to resign. Suspend an action, resign. This is too much for me. You run out of the front door, fleeing in panic. It says, well, Lita Chandler is not controlled by a player. She gains action parlay, test for 4 book. If you succeed, take control of Lita Chandler. So this helps you get a hold of her, so you can use her as an ability. Alright, then the other couple of cards we have that are just tied right into this campaign is we're going to get kind of our boss of this campaign, or this scenario, the Ghoul Priest, who has 4 attack, 5 health per player, and 4 evade. Humanoid monster, ghoul, and elite. Prey. The highest attack, hunter, and retaliate. So as a reminder for what those keywords do. So the hunter keyword says, during the enemy phase, each ready unengaged enemy with the hunter keyword moves towards connecting location on the shortest path towards the nearest investigator. Enemy's location with 1 or more investigators do not move. So yeah, he's going to just try and move towards the nearest guy every turn if he possibly can. And then if we look at the retaliate, each time an investigator fails a skill test while attacking a ready enemy with retaliate, after applying all results of that skill test, enemy performs an attack against the investigator. Enemy does not exhaust after performing a retaliate. So if you can't take him out, he's going to hit you back. And then we had Prey. So let's see what Prey does here. Giving the opportunity, some enemies will pursue the identified investigator. Yeah, so it's gonna always try and move over whoever has the highest fist. It's always gonna move towards an investigator, but it's always gonna move towards the highest one. So its attack, whenever it does damage, is gonna be 2 health and 2 horror. So it's pretty powerful. A figure in red robes wearing a bone mask. It gibbers and snarls before leaping to attack. Then we do get a ally card in here. We have Lita Chandler, who we've mentioned several times. The Zealot, who ties in with the Knight of the Zealot. So when you have her, she's an asset. When you control Lita Chandler, she gains each investigator location gets +1 attack. or fist. Reaction: when investigator at your location successfully attacks a monster enemy, that investigator deals +1 damage. So basically, having her, she's just going to help you do more damage a lot quicker. And she has 3 health, 3 thing, but she does still take up your one ally slot. Then we have 2 monsters that are tied to this campaign. We have the Flesh Eater, a 4/4 and a 1 humanoid monster ghoul. He's gonna spawn in the attic. So whenever he comes up, he's only gonna spawn in the attic. A monstrous creature feeds from the rotting carcass in the attic. So he does 1 physical damage and 2 mental damage. Damage and horror, I should just say. And then we have the Icy Ghoul, which does 3/4 and it has 3/4 and 4. Humanoid monster ghoul spawns in the cellar. Inside the tunnels beneath the house, a massive beast tears straight over the ice, covered in a thick layer of frost as it breathes a visible bitter cold. Does 2 damage and 1 horror. So it's just the opposite. So those are kind of the basic threats you're going to get in the starter tutorial of the game. We're going to have other monsters that will appear, because we're going to obviously have other encounters that will get added in there. So we'll see them when they come up, because if I went back to that book again here. Because we also have the rats and the ghouls, so we have 2 more monsters in there. And then we have 3 other expansions, which are... I don't remember what each one of these are off the top of my head. Striking Fear, Chilling Cold, and... what was the last one? Ancient Evils. So yeah, we have 3 other basic ones. Those ones are in a lot of the campaigns, so we're going to see those guys a lot. But they're kind of like common enemies. Alright, so that was our first story. So if you beat that, we can jump into our second story, which is The Midnight Masks, which has a little clock tower on it. So far, easy standard, we have Skull Eels -X. X is the highest number of Doom on cultists in play. The hood is -2, place 1 Doom on the nearest cultist, and the window is -3. If you fail, place 1 of your clues in your location. Hard mode, Skull becomes -X. X is the total number of Doom in play. Hood, -2, place 1 Doom on each cultist enemy in play. If there are no cultist enemies in play, reveal another token. And window is -4. If you fail, place all your clues in your location. Yeah, so it gets pretty nasty pretty quick. So we have one agenda. Or agenda 1. Predator or Prey. So we have... you can opt to resign. Action resign. You don't want to risk taking too long, so you head to safe to get the information you've gathered. So you're trying to gather some various information, but you have the option to just leave at any time. This one actually then flips over. It becomes the Masked Hunter. Silently stalking 4/4 and 2. Humanoid, cultist, and elite. Spawns engaged with Prey. Prey whoever has the most clues. He has Hunter. The Masked Hunter gets +2 health per investigator. While you are engaged with the Masked Hunter, you cannot discover or spend clues. 2 attack and 2 attack, 2 health, and 1 horror. Yeah, so pretty interesting, guys. It has 4 to begin with, but then he gains 2 per investigator. So rather than being times, he just gains 2 additional per investigator. But he could become a pain very quickly. We have Agenda 2. Time is running short. You can opt to resign. You don't want to risk taking long. You have your safe with your information you've gathered. So it's kind of a different one. The other one, we're trying to like beat this thing. It's in this house. This one, we're trying to gather clues. You have to read the story to find out exactly. So here you do Resolution 2. Then we have Act 1. Uncovering a conspiracy. So you have 1 night to find the members of this cult and unveil their plan. So that's what you're trying to do. Action. The investigators spend 2 clues per investigator as a group. Draw the top card of the cultist deck. Objective. Find as many unique cultist enemies as you can. Add them to the victory display. There are 6 unique cultist enemies. The victory display advanced. No, not all 6 of them are in the cultist deck. So that's very interesting. You actually have to search them out for other decks. And then we have a bunch of stuff on the back. Secrets were unveiled. Alright, then we have where are we starting? So our starting location is your house. Despite what happened, you just couldn't bring yourself to destroy your home. So this is actually a neat little kind of like carry on from like one campaign to the next. If you didn't destroy your house, you get to start with this in play. It says sports. When the ghoul priest spawns, spawn it here instead of its normal location. Draw one card and gain one resource. Limit once per turn. Still feel uneasy about going back. So if you didn't destroy your house in the previous campaign, you'll have your house here, so it gets you some extra thing to do. Gain some extra card and resources if you want. But you have to worry about the ghoul priest spawning. Just kind of a neat little idea. And then we can go to the river town, which is in Arkham Central. The banks of the Miskatonic are lined with the dock, warehouses, and small shops in a district aptly named River Town. And if we flip that over, same thing. Someone said about the waters of the Miskatonic River tonight. It ripples and bubbles as something is moving beneath the surface. So we're going to go to the south side. Let's go check out that side of town. Middle-class houses, gamble rooms, and crowd together between the streets of the south side. The neighborhood is known for its cultural and social landmarks such as the South Church, Ma's Boarding House, and the Historical Society. But in the south side, where are we going? Specifically, we ended up at the Historical Society. Action, draw 3 cards, limit once per game. It's not a bad thing to have. The Gregorian Manor housed in the Historical Society, as well as known for its private library where local records, maps, and artifacts of Arkham's past hint at secrets better left alone. And we also have another south side. And this is one thing I love about the way this game works, is because when you play the game, you're only going to pick one of these, so you don't know which one you're going to get. So that means every time you play the campaign, it's going to be a little bit different. So we could go to Ma's Boarding House. Our action, search your deck for an ally asset add to your hand, shuffle your deck, limit once per game. So which is better? Would you rather draw 3 cards or get an ally? But you don't know which one you're going to get necessarily. Ma's managed first cheap rooms, mystery meat Mondays, a motley variety of characters can be found coming and going at all times. We can also go to St. Mary's Hospital. Arkham's only hospital, St. Mary's has a 24-hour receiving room and is busy all hours of the night. Dr. Mortimer and Nurse Sharon have been particularly stressed lately thanks to recent events. Alright, so we have action, heal 3 damage, limit once per game. And I'm gonna have to stop reading all the flavor text, or we'll be on all of these cards forever, because every single card here has flavor text. So it's gonna have to keep going. I might read some here or there, but I'm gonna try not to read every one of them. Alright, then we have the Miskatonic University. So it says Henry Archimage, who's very important in our story. And if we flip that one over, we have action, search the top 6 cards of your deck for a tome or spell, add it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. So going to the university lets us find some cards. Alright, then we might choose to go downtown instead. Downtown Arkham is filled with government buildings including City Hall, First Bank of Arkham, Independence Square, and Arkham Asylum can also be found in this area. Busiest district in the city. So in this time, we're going to go to the First Bank of Arkham. Action, gain 3 resources. We call this a loan. Sure you do. So then we have another downtown, where instead we can go to the Arkham Asylum. Action is heal 3 horror. A refuge for the mind or a prison for the soul. We can also go to East Town. East Town neighborhoods situated in the northern banks of the Miskatonic River contain lower class and housing, Arkham Police Station, and have popular areas like Velma's Diner. And in East Town, we're just in East Town right now. We are in East Town, reduce the cost of each ally asset you play by 2. So, just a heads up or a aforementioned this, so they did do the return sets eventually, and they've only done for the first couple of expansions. Unfortunately, they didn't go back to every single one. But what that did was it added more cards to the campaign, so you could replay it with new stuff. Which added some more stuff for East Town, Central, and South Side. So it adds some new extra locations in there, which is a really cool idea. So it's like, hey, here's all these things. Here's some that we kind of left out. I'm wondering, though, if in the future they stop doing the returns because after a while, they just started deciding, hey, we're just going to add the equivalent of these cards right into the game rather than expecting someone to buy an additional expansion to add to it. But it was kind of a neat idea. And we'll eventually do videos for that. So we have the graveyard. It's on French Hill. And that will have force after you enter the graveyard. Test for 3 brain. If you fail, you must either take 2 horror or move to Rivertown. And then final location is north side. So this is kind of cool because, like, right, we have our house, which had like 4 rooms. This has a bunch of big sprawling areas we can go to. So north side, spend 5 resources, gain 2 clues from the token pool. Limit once per group, limit once per game. In north side, nothing gets people talking faster than a bit of go. And we do have some treachery cards that will pop up. So we have 3 copies of the Hunting Shadow, which is a curse, which has peril and revelation. You must either choose one, spend 1 clue, or take 2 damage. So peril is a fun little keyword. It basically says you can't talk to your neighbors about it. You can't talk to your other players. Let's look at the official ones. Resolving the drawing of an encounter card with the peril keyword, an investigator cannot confer with other players. Those players cannot play cards, trigger abilities, or commit cards to the investigator's skill test while the peril counter is resolving. So it's kind of neat because peril then takes away from the whole we're a cooperative game, we need to be working as a team, and it says now I have to do this. So someone all of a sudden has to be like, you draw this card and you're like, I'll give away a clue, and they're like, why did you do that? But if they know the cards, they're gonna start knowing it is. But it's the idea of like you can't ask everybody else like, hey, if I take 2 damage, can you heal me? Like you have to decide, can you take it and risk that, or you have to just give up a clue. So these are really fun ones to have here and there. Not a ton, but it's nice to have. And we also have 2 copies of False Lead. It says Revelation. If you have no clues, False Lead gains Surge. If you have 1 or more clues, test for 4 knowledge or book. For each point you fail by, place 1 of your clues in your location. So yeah, basically you want to really succeed at this, otherwise it's going to be bad. And then what does Surge do? It says after drawing and resolving an encounter with the Surge keyword, an investigator must draw another card from the encounter deck. So usually when Surge appears, for the most part, it's this card wants to do something. If it can't do what it needs to do, it's going to surge and basically replace itself. So here it's saying, if you have no clues, which means it can't do the second half of its ability, which would hopefully have you fail and drop clues at your location, it's instead just going to replace itself. So they do that in a way so you can't just get away with having nothing happen because you got lucky enough to not have any clues when this was drawn. Alright, that is our second scenario. We have one more scenario. So it's actually an encounter set that comes before that, which I'm going to show off because it ties directly into this set, because it adds some more cultists. So I have, it's called the Cult of Ummadorhoth. Now, this is a little card divider I personally made. This does not come in the set, but I did this so I could keep track of what the different icons mean. Otherwise, there's nothing on the actual cards that tell you. You get a little counter, you just get the cards. You don't get your beginning one like this for the regular encounters. So I wanted to, for my own personal sake, be able to know like what the sets were. Without having to keep always looking up. So we have a couple of enemies in here that are going to be. This is kind of like our cultist deck, which said we need to have a couple. And we have Wolfman Drew. He's a cannibal. He has 4, 4, and 2. Human cultist. He spawns in downtown. Force. When Wolfman Drew attacks, heal 1 damage from him. He's a longtime patient of Arkham, and he does 2 physical damage to you. We have Herman Collins, the Undertaker. 3, 4, and 4. Humanoid cultist spawns in your graveyard. Action: choose and discard 4 cards from your hand. Parlay. Add Herman Collins to the victory display. The Undertaker's local graveyard. So parlay is an ability that comes up a lot. So let's see what that says. Just says some abilities identified as the parlay action designator. Such abilities are initiated using the activate action seen on page 4. So let's swing back to there and see exactly what it says about parlay. It's just an activate action, so that's all parlay does. I think the idea is parlay means you usually have it on cards you'd be talking to a person versus, I think, performing an action. And that's generally the only thing. Like something else might be like, I'm activating this because I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I think but parlay is basically to parlay is you're discarding this card, you're talking to this person to have them go away. Is basically what you're doing. Alright, so we have Pete Warren, the Occult Professor, 2, 3, and 3. Humanoid Cultist and Miskatonic. Spawn to Miskatonic University. Activate, spend 2 clues to parlay. So instead of fight, basically instead of fight or investigate or evade, you're parlaying, which means you're just talking to them. You add Peter Warren to the victory display. I think it's 1 attack, 1 damage to you. Victoria Devereux, 3, 3, and 2. Humanoid Cultist spawns on the north side. Activate, spend 5 resources to parlay. Add Victory Devereux to the victory display. And she can do 1 damage as well. And then we have Ruth Turner, the Mortician, 2, 4, and 5. Humanoid Cultist spawn at St. Mary's Hospital. Of course, after Ruth Turner is evaded, add to your victory display. So it's kind of neat how each one has a different way to get you into the victory display. But yeah, these guys will tie directly into the Midnight Masks. There'll be other cultists that are hanging around town somewhere. Alright, so let's hop into our third story. Alright, and our third scenario for the base core game is the Devourer Below. So, spoiler, again, heads up for this, is at the end of this, it will show off the Ancient One, or Elder One, Elder God, is for the set. So every single campaign always has one towards the end of the last scenario. The core set only has 3 scenarios. The full base game has 8, or every expansion I think has 8. They have 6 Mythos packs, which again, with the revised sets all started coming out, they just have them in one big box. And then the core box for each one had 2, I believe. So usually 8. And then the last one, usually the last one or the second to the last one on some of them, they had the Elder God. So we'll get eventually set. So there's a spoiler, so if you don't want to know who's in there, you can go ahead and skip ahead or to the next one. I get to the rat should be the next encounter. So we have Skull Whip, -X. X is equal to the number of monster enemies in play. Hood is -2. Place 1 doom on the nearest enemy. Window is -3. If there's a monster enemy at your location, take 1 damage. And it's the Ancient One, I guess is what they call them. And if you get the Heart, you have -5. If there's an Ancient enemy in play, reveal another token. And if we play the Hard Expert mode, Skull is -3. If you fail after the skill test, search your encounter deck and discard pile for a monster, draw it, shuffle the encounter deck. Hood, -4. Place 2 Doom on the nearest enemy. Which having Doom on enemies really sucks, because that means you have to defeat them to get that Doom counter back down. Lingo, -5. If there's a monster enemy at your location, take 1 damage and 1 horror. And the Heart, -7. If there's an Ancient enemy in play, reveal another enemy. Another token. So yeah, drawing the Heart, I don't think it's necessary. Technically, auto fail, you are always going to fail, but you have a really high chance of also you have a -7. That's really going to hurt. Alright, so we have the agenda. We have the Arkham Woods. There's some stuff happening in there. And flip that over to switch theirs. Death to the Intruders. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck and discard cards from the top until the monster is discarded. Spawn the enemy in the main path and place 1 Doom on that enemy. Umagoroth. We have the rage begins, or the ritual begins. Each enemy gets +1 fight and evade. Ooh, makes enemies harder. The will of Umagoroth. In player order, each investigator must test for 6 mental. Each investigator who fails must search the collection for a random basic madness weakness and add it to his or her hand. Oh boy, so I've got an extra madness. And then Agenda 3, Vengeance awaits. Force, when this agenda advances, if the investigators are Act 1, put the set-aside ritual site into play and then spawn the set-aside Umagoroth there. If the investigators are Act 2 or 3, discard all enemies at the ritual and spawn the set-aside Umagoroth there. So basically, if you're not at the end, it will all of a sudden have them get there. It'll bring up things. So you have the Devourer below, Revelation. Place the current act in agenda with the Devourer below. This card is both the current act and current agenda. Objective, if Umagoroth is defeated, Revelation 2. Cool. Alright, so our acts, we have Investigating the Trail. Gathers led you to the south of the woods of Arkham where you believe the ritual is being summoned. So we went from getting out of our house till we learned about the cultist with the blood priest. Looked through the cultist during the matching of the masks. And then now we're trying to take all the information we got from the cultist and find the major evil. Put aside the set-aside ritual into play if not already in play. Search your collection for each enemy recorded in your campaign log under cultists who got away and spawn those enemies to the main path. Unveiling the plans. This is just fun, again, that fun thing where you're playing campaign one after another. If you didn't capture everyone or find them during the last mission because you decide, hey, we got enough clues and you left, which is an option, like all them resign cards, this is what you're kind of getting punished for. Into the Darkness. Objective. The investigator enters a ritual site. Advance. And last right. Shuffle the encounter discard pile. Into the encounter deck, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until one enemy is discarded. 2 enemies instead if there are 3 or more players. Spawn each discarded at the ritual site. And then for Act 3, we have action, spend 1 clue to test for 3 brain or 3 agility. Foot, if you succeed, place 1 clue on this act. Objective, there are 2 clues per investor in this act. Advance. So depending on who you have, they can test better. And then here, just the ritual is broken. Cool. Alright, so we're going to start with the main path. We're heading into the Arkham Woods. Hangman Brook separate uptown from the woods south of Arkham. Passing over the small bridge, you follow the main path deeper into the forest. So from the main path is connected to each other woods location. You can resign. There's nothing we can do to stop them. You flee from the woods, leaving Arkham to a grisly fate. I love that there's literally an option in the game. It's just run away. So here we have Arkham Woods. So this is what's going to be great. We're going to have several Arkham Woods cards. 1, 2, 3. We have 6 of them. So we have 6 Arkham Woods cards. We just don't know which. So when you first see that, you're going to see like, oh, I'm at the main path. There's all these branches. You don't know which Arkham Wood you're going to. So the first one we're going to go to, and I'm not going to show up the front. So the front of each one of these are the same. So I'll just skip each one of those. We have the Unhallowed Grounds. Force, after enters location, test for 4 brain. If you fail, take 1 damage and 1 horror. Then we have the Twisted Paths. Force, when you move out of this location, test for 3 knowledge. If you fail, cancel the effects of the move. See if you're smart enough to get over there. We have the Old House. This location is investigated using brain instead of the skill indicated by the investigation's attempt. Interesting. The Cliffside. This location investigating using the foot instead of the skill indicated by the investigation attempt. So usually like the seeker does it with their knowledge. Usually the typical way you investigate for clues. This will really make it a little bit more challenging for somebody else. But it could make the other players be able to do it. We have Tangled Thicket. This location investigating uses the fist instead of the indicated by the investigation attempt. And then we have the Quiet Glade. Action, heal 1 damage or 1 hurt, limit once per turn. So you sit there and rest for a bit. And our final location was the aforementioned ritual site. This is a cave, a large central chamber, a cold dark cavern, adorned with arcane markings and dimly lit by candlelight. Not creepy at all. Now, of course, at the end of the round, there are 2 or fewer clues per investigator on the ritual site. Add clues to it until 2 clues per investigator on it. So I'll keep giving you clues to try and help beat it. Alright, then we're going to have our big boss. We have Umagorath, the Devourer Below, who has 5, 6, and 6. So, Ancient 1 and Elite, Hunter, and Massive. Umagorath gets plus 4 health per investigator. And he says, force at the end of each investigator's turn, ready Umagorath. So he's ready to attack on each investigator's turn. So instead, normally, if someone would evade, it would exhaust it and everyone else would kind of get like a freebie. Not with him. It says, action, if you control Lita Chandler, it's only after her you throw Lita at Umagorath in order to spare your lives. So you can opt to, if you save her from the first campaign, you kept her around, you kept her in your deck through the second one and bring her to the third one you got. Otherwise, he does 3 physical and 3 mental damage. So he has the massive keyword, which says, a ready enemy with the massive keyword is considered to be engaged with each investigator at the same location. So he just there's some more rules to it too, but that's the basis. So basically when he's in a location, which would be the ritual site, he's fighting everybody there. So one person can't, again, evade him and exhaust him and then get away. And then we have 2 copies of Umagorath's Wrath. It says, a curse, revelation, test for 5, brain. For each point you fail by, you must either choose 1. Choosing discard card from your hand or take 1 damage and 1 horror. Nice. And this is obviously hit well before he ever comes out. It's not like it's a him thing only. Alright, that's what we have for our 3 different scenarios or campaigns. Alright, then we're going to head into our encounters. So the encounters are ones that are going to be mixed into every single set, throw it here and there. And actually, you could create your own games by adding different ones to different things. Although some are definitely going to be required versus others, but some are kind of like, I don't necessarily need to have rats in these. I can pull rats out, put something else a little bit harder enemies, or add more. So we have some rats. So rats are just a copy of 3 cards. So add 3 cards of rats to your deck. So we have 1, 1, and 3. So they're hard to evade, but they don't do much damage to you. And they don't have much health. So they can die pretty easily. But it just adds that extra nuisance into the game. Because you're going to have to deal with these rats occasionally popping up and damaging you. Alright. Then our next one are the ghouls. With a little goat-like symbol. So we're going to get 3 copies of the Ghoul Minion. Which is a 2/2 and 2 humanoid monster and ghoul. It was colossal and nameless blasphemy. Glaring red eyes. It held bony claws. Things that have been man gnawing at the head of a child nibbles like a stick of candy. It only does one of each type of damage. So a little bit more dangerous than the rats. We also got 1 copy of the Ravenous Ghoul, which is a 3/3 and 3 humanoid monster and ghoul. Prey, lowest remaining health. And so like these are going to really tie into like some of the second campaign or the first campaign stuff that had to deal with having more ghouls. The first one had to deal with more ghouls being out. So this will obviously add more ghouls into that deck. So you might have to deal with more of them. And then we have 3 copies of Grasping Hands, which is a hazard. So it's Revelation. Test for 3 foot. For each point you fail by, take 1 damage. Decaying Hands, Rise of Bull, and Grasp the Claws at your ankles. So this, yeah, definitely could make this more challenging for certain characters than others. We have Striking Fear, which is our next one, the little triangle symbol. So this is going to give us 3 copies of Rotting Remains, which which is a terror, revelation, test for mental. For each point you fail by, take 1 horror. So like the agility one, grasping hand, you're trying to the theming of it makes sense. You had to have agility to be able to move to dodge his hand, reaching for the floor. This is instead rotting remains, just testing your mental fortitude. Basically, like, can you see rotting remains and not start to go insane? And that's what it's testing you against. We have 2 copies of Frozen in Fear, which is another terror card. Revelation. Put Frozen into Fear into play in your threat area. The first time you perform one of the following actions, move, fight, or evade, each round it costs 1 additional action. Force. At the end of your turn, test for 3. If you succeed, discard Frozen Fear. So you have to test for this every turn. Again, some of the investigators are going to be better at this than others. So I'm just going to do a quick look at that. So if we looked at all their stats, test for rate. Agnes has 5. She's going to probably pass these without any problem. Wendy has 4. Probably going to pass them fairly well. The AZ and Roland are going to maybe struggle a little bit with that. But then Skid only has 2. So he's going to have a lot harder time beating some of these horrors. That way you have to use extra skill cards and stuff like that. And then we have 2 copies of Dissonant Voices. Terror, Revelation. Put Dissonant Voices in your threat. Do not play assets or event. Force. At the end of the round, discard Dissonant Voices. So it just shuts you down for 8 turns. So not the worst. Alright, then our next one is we have Ancient Evils, which is this like circle like eye, which is just going to give us 3 copies of Ancient Evils. Omen, Revelation. Plays 1 doom on the current agenda. This effect can cause the current agenda to advance. So why this is always really bad to draw, because anytime you get, normally you can kind of calculate, okay, if the Goom is going to go up 1 every turn, you can be like, oh, they need 10 Goom to advance. It's turn 3. I have 7 more turns to be able to beat this. Then this card pops saying, nope, now you have 6. And there's nothing you can do about it. And that's just, again, makes it a little bit more tricky. It's even like later we said some of the camp or sets had where they put Doom on the cultists and stuff or on enemies. Again, that would make it a lot harder, because then that way you have to defeat those guys to knock it back down. But it's also, it pops 1 on there. It's 1 more you have on there to have to deal with. Awesome. Then we have Chilling Cold. Another one's going to pop up in a lot of encounters. And we're going to get 2 copies of Crypt Chill. This is a hazard. Revelation. Test for 4 mental. If you fail, choose and discard 1 asset you control. If you cannot, take 2 damage instead. So things, if you have an asset, you have to get rid of it. If not, you take damage. It's kind of like, hey, can you afford to, can you get rid of like a book or drop something else? Basically, you're freezing something else in your place. Otherwise, you're taking damage. And then we have 2 copies of Obscuring Fog, which is another hazard. Revelation. Attach to your location. Limit once per location. Attached location gets +2 Shroud. Make it harder to defeat. Force. After attached location is successfully investigated, discard Obscuring Fog. So it just makes the game a little bit more difficult. Then we have the Dark Cult, which is the upside down triangle in a circle. So this is going to give us some more cult members. We have 3 copies of the Acolyte. 3, 1, and 2. Humanoid cultists spawn in any empty location. Force. After Acolyte display, place 1 doom on it. This is, again, this guy's going to come in. All of a sudden you were like, I have 7 more turns. This guy pops in. Now I have 6 more turns. If you can defeat him, it'll drop it back down. But he's going to not spawn necessarily anywhere near you. He can spawn across the entire board potentially, which could make it tricky. Then we have the Wizard of the Order, which is 4, 2, and 2. Humanoid cultists. Spawning in a location, retaliate. Force. At the end of the Mythos phase, place 1 doom on the Wizard of Order. So he's going to gain 1 every turn. So he's going to be even more deadly. So, like, some of these guys, like, you also have to stop what you're doing. Someone has to go track them down to take them out. And then we have 2 copies of Mysterious Chanting, which is a hex. Revelation. Place 2 Doom on the nearest cultist enemy. If there are no cultist enemies in play, search and counter deck and discard pile for cultist and draw it. It doesn't then get 2 as well, but at least it gets them in there. So it's either going to place 2 or draw a guy. Yeah, always interesting way to get some extra stuff. Then, if we want some interesting more enemies, we have the Night Gaunts. Horns and Wings. So, these guys are going to appear lots throughout different sets. And they're definitely creepy looking. So, we have the Hunting Night Gaunt. 3, 4, and 1. It's a monster Night Gaunt. It has Hunter. While attempting to evade Hunting Night Gaunt, double the negative modifier of each revealed chaos token. They had no faces at all to smile at, but only a suggestive blankness where a face ought to be. Ooh. Yeah, so they're 4 health. They can evade pretty easily, but if you have some bad negatives, it's going to really penalize you anyhow. And then we have 2 copies of On Wings of Darkness. This is our Treachery card. Revelation. Test for 4 foot. If you fail, take 1 damage on horror. Then disengage from each Night Gaunt enemy engaged with you and move to a central location. So the idea is you're trying to struggle, and if you don't, they're just going to drop you somewhere instead. I just love the little thematic stuff in there. It's really fun. This is also an interesting one to have in the game. We have Locked Doors, which is just a locked door, which is going to give us 2 copies of the Locked Door. Obstacle, Revelation. Attach the location with the most clues without a locked door attached. Attached location cannot be investigated. Action, test for 4 fists to break down the door, or 3 foot to pick the lock. If you succeed, discard the locked door. Yeah, so it makes it pretty interesting. So we had like the it's kind of interesting with my guys. It's like you can't go to that location at all until you did this, versus just you can't investigate it, because you could have a way to get into it, you just can't do anything while you're in there. So it could have been a little bit better, but still a fun way to like have this come up, and it's like, oh, if it lands on an area that you don't have to worry, it's gonna be a location with the most clues anyhow. Like, if for some reason you have enough clues, you can avoid it, great, but you might have to deal with it. It might end up, again, across, depending on how your map is set up, it might end up across the board. So, like, for a good example is, let's say you played this in, you added this into the first set, which is not normally appearing there, but if you add it in there, all of a sudden, you cleaned, like, you're up in the attic, and you revealed it, and there's a monster up there, and you're like, oh, I don't want to fight him right now. I'm just going to leave him alone up there. I'm going to go do the other stuff first. And you go down, and you start cleaning out the cellar, then this appears. Now it goes back up. This is going to go to the attic. Now you have to go up there. You have to fight that monster before you can discover all the clues. And, you know, it makes you have to then travel back across the map. So interesting. Not as bad for that one. There's only like 2 spaces. We have the Agents of Hasser. So Hasser is, of course, one of our ancient ones we'll see in a later set. But we have 2 copies of the Screeching Bayaki. 3, 4, and 3. Monster and Bayaki. Prey, the lowest remaining sanity. Hunter. While engaged with an investigator with the remaining sanity of 4 or fewer, Screeching Bayaki gets +1 fight and evade. So if he hurts you enough or you're low, he's going to get extra attack. And we have 2 copies of the Yellow Sign, which is Hasser's symbol, which is an omen. Revelation, test for 4 brain. If you fail, take 2 horror and search your deck for a madness weakness. Draw that card and shuffle your deck. Getting an extra madness or extra weakness, especially madness, any weakness is never a good thing. You're also going to get appearing to the Agents of Yog Sothoth. So again, we're getting some more of the kind of like bleeding into the other campaigns that are eventually going to show up. So we're getting just some of these other guys that kind of going to show up. So here we're going to have 2 copies of the Yithian Observer, which is a 4, 4, and 3. Monster and Yithian. Prey, fewest cards in hand. Of course, when Yithian Observer Attacks you, discard 1 card at random from your hand. If you cannot, Gifting Observer deals +1 damage in horror for this attack. And then we have 2 treachery cards to go with that. Offer of Power, a pack, which is a peril. Revelation, you must either choose 1, draw 2 cards and place 2 doom on the current agenda. This effect can cause the current agenda advance, or take 2 horror. So again, you have to do this by yourself, so your teammates don't get to know what you're doing. So they gotta figure out like why you decide. Again, if they know the cards, like they play this game enough, they know what all these cards are. Great. I think it's kind of fun if you're playing this like for the first time, or you don't know what all these cards are off the top of your head. Your opponent has to kind of wonder why you're doing some of this stuff. This is interesting. All right, Agents of Shub-Niggurath, a little goat face. So we're going to get the Relentless Dark Young. 4, 5, and 2. Monster, Dark Young. Prey, lowest agility. Or foot. Force, at the end of your round, heal 2 damage from Relentless Dark Young. So it's going to take a while to kill him. The trees trembled. Leaves fluttered around us. The earth shook as buds. The giant hope beat grew closer. And then we're going to get 3 goat spawns. 3, 3, and 2, humanoid monster, hunter, and retaliate. Force, when goat spawn is defeated, each investor at this location takes 1 horror. So great. So yeah, if he's defeated, everyone's going to take damage. So you got to keep that in mind. So if you're going to defeat him, maybe not have your entire team on that location. Hopefully. And then the last one, we have the Agents of Cthulhu. So one of the big bads everyone knows. We have 2 copies of Young Deep One. 3, 3, and 3. Humanoid monster, Deep One. Prey, lowest attack or fist. Hunter, force. After the Deep One engages, you take 1 horror. So this guy comes on, you automatically go insane a little. You go a little insane. And then we have 2 copies of Dreams of Rayleigh. Omen, Revelation. Put Dreams of Rayleigh into play in your threat area. You get -1 brain and -1 sanity. So now keep in mind that this just reduces your sanity down, but you're not taking sanity damage. So it's like saying if your investigator can take 7 sanity damage, now they can only take 6. But then if you get rid of this card, it goes back up to 7. So it's not giving them damage that way. Action, test for 3 brain. If you succeed, discard Dreams of Rayleigh. So basically, you're having these dreams that are driving you a little bit insane. Cool. Alright. That is what we have for the Arkham Horror card game. That was all of our campaign cards for the core set. So if you guys enjoyed this, come back, check out. I'm going to start going through all of the expansions. Again, we'll do a speed unboxing for all when we get to all the Mythos packs. Because each set comes with a big box core set. And then 6 Mythos packs. We'll do a speed unboxing problem where we just show off each card or each one, and then we will do the full reveal where, like we did with these videos, where I talk about each one, read through lots of the primary text of each one, and we'll do that as Investigators on One Hand campaign, because that's how they're releasing the contents now. But I do want to go through each of the Mythos packs if someone's like, hey, I saw these on sale somewhere, like this store had them on sale, or my local board game had bunches on sale. Is it worth me picking these up? What are in these? Is there a couple of cards that might help me? Then you have an idea of what there are. I would say, granted though, now that they are re-releasing them in big box sets, it's probably better just to buy them as a full box set. But if you can find the core expansion and all 6 Mythos packs for a good deal, there's nothing that's going to be different than in like the campaign and the investigator boxes. So if you can find all 7 packs, essentially, for each expansion, for cheaper than it's going to cost to buy the 2 extra sets, you can go ahead and do that. Or if you can find them and you really decide, hey, I don't really care about having more campaign stuff. I just want more investigator cards, right? You could pick up all of them and then have them without having to decide if you had to buy one or the other since. So yeah, that's what we have. See you guys later. Bye.